Welcome to Mars. When we colonize Mars, our goal will be not only to settle down and make it our new home, but primarily to provide a continuous flow of scientific information and discovery. After many robotic missions, we begin to understand Mars' geology and habitability potential, but there is still much to discover. Collecting geological samples, searching for new resources and ways to produce them in Martian conditions. All those processes need a developed workflow that we can test now while being on Earth. In today's episode, we would like to show you how the High Seas team conducts research in their analog Mars missions. We'll take a closer look at their efforts to gain knowledge about the strange and challenging terrain they were facing during their mission. We'll compare it to the terrains in our game, the cold, diverse, and merciless environment of the Red Planet that will challenge the player in his fight for survival.
So you can see this is the kind of terrain that our hab is situated in. Behind me is Olympus Mons. It's really nice today since it's really clear weather. There's no dust obstructing our view. It's a really beautiful sight and we love to see it outside of our hab window. Primary constituents of the terrain around here are different lava rocks. So the stuff we're standing on is mostly cinder rock because there's a cinder fissure that our hab is sitting right next to, which is formed by lava spraying up in large fountains, creating a bunch of these small pebbly rocks you can see around me. Further out in the background, that black rock you can see is mainly A'a and Pahoehoe lava mixed together. And what A'a is very rough, crumbly lava that has dried into these solid rocks that are sort of loose, kind of like the cinder rock, but in larger pieces. And then the Pahoehoe is lava flow that was kind of viscous like syrup, but that hardened in that state. So if you walk up close to it, you'll see it's like a very wavy pattern, but it's rock solid because it is literally rock. It's a fascinating terrain out here, and we just got back from an excursion to some lava tubes. They're all over the place here, and hiding inside those lava tubes is microbial life that lives off of moisture that collects inside those caves, as well as some sulfur. In fact, I believe I found a rock behind me here that has a little bit of sulfur on it. That's the stuff that feeds those microbes. They don't need to photosynthesize, they just work off of chemical reactions. It's a fascinating place out here. Vehicles obviously don't work all that well around here because of just how rough the terrain is, but there are some beaten paths that are good to walk on. But if you've ever tried to walk out on these rocks, it's a real ordeal. It takes a lot of exercise, especially in these suits.
In the game, you can visit many real-life Mars locations created based on scans provided by the HiRISE experiment placed on board the NASA Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. You will be able to visit the summit of Olympus Mons, the Mariner Valley, and many well-known craters such as Gale, Korolev, Endeavour, Jezero, Gusev, and other places in an unlimited procedurally generated terrain. The distances in our game are shorter than in real life to provide smoother gameplay. Olympus Mons is the highest mountain in the solar system. In real life, it's 21 kilometers high, while in our game it's about 10 times smaller, but it looks very similar to the real thing because it is based on a 3D scan of the real Mars terrain. The same goes for many other regions which you can visit in the game.
To give you all a better view of the terrain surrounding the habitat, I've brought up some drone footage that we took during one of the last days of our mission. You can see the large ridge just behind the dome that was, as I said, formed by a fissure, and you can actually see the openings into that fissure along the center line. Around this red cinder rock is the black lava flow that I mentioned earlier. You can see a gigantic pit at the very end of that ridge, and that is a spot that we referred to as Black Waterfall because, as you'll see as we turn the view here, there's actually a lava flow that poured into that pit at a later time and solidified in place. Here's a closer view of the ridge that shows the openings of the fissure that used to deliver lava to the surface. This particular formation was actually quite fragile, and we could only walk across it at a very specific point since any location along this ridge would collapse under too much pressure. This clip comes from our excursion to the lava tube that I mentioned earlier, although this is separate from the one underneath the ridge. You can see around us is a lot of black rock that hardened around the flowing lava back when this tube was originally formed. On the ceiling are these white formations left behind by the chemosynthetic life forms I mentioned earlier. They make almost these plant-like crystals on the ceiling. And then around us are a bunch of small stalactites that look a lot like bat wings. Lava tubes like this one are important to astrobiologists since they show how life could thrive on a planet like Mars, sheltered from the irradiated dry surface. There may be chemosynthetic life forms just like the ones we found here. Commander Mikhaila Musilova, our resident astrobiologist, collected extremophile samples from the lava tubes as part of a collaboration with NASA Goddard. The exact mechanism used by these microbes to convert chemicals into energy isn't fully understood by scientists, so studying these samples will provide insight into how similar life forms might live on the surface or subsurface of Mars. Preserving any Martian ecosystem will be a top priority for future colonists, especially if they decide to take up residence in the protection of a lava tube. Understanding earthly extremophiles now will help that effort in the future. Remember, settling Mars isn't just about surviving and solving engineering challenges, it's also about expanding the scope of human knowledge beyond the confines of Earth. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the near future and are excited to one day occupy Mars.
In the game, there are also some underground caves waiting to be discovered, especially under high mountains such as Olympus Mons. Inside, you can find some rare minerals and chemical elements, such as uranium. We have been building the Occupy Mars universe since 2017, with a goal to provide an immersive experience that accurately reflects today's state of scientific knowledge about future Mars colonization, while also maintaining fun and engaging gameplay. During that time, we constantly changed and improved every aspect of the game to keep it up to date with current trends and graphic standards. One of the biggest challenges during the development was creating the new, more realistic procedural open-world terrain generation system. This process took us a long time, but it was worth it. Together with it, we recreated the rock drilling system and improved the quality of textures, which made the whole environment look much better. The new system also means better optimization. Generating terrain is up to 5 times faster than in the previous version. Fresh and more realistic appearance of the environment, with greater number of pebbles, stones, rocks, crayons, craters, mountains, each in different variants. The ability to show tracks left by the vehicles and the player's footprints on the regolith. New rock splitting system with more distinguished looking raw resources inside. More unique places like destroyed bases abandoned by previous expeditions where player can find useful resources and items. More named historical locations and the real NASA rovers found at those locations. We also developed new, better-looking rocks with 4K textures and new visual ways to inform players about resources contained in each rock. And more variants of those rocks make the environment even more diverse and immersive, which you can see for yourself while playing the beta version. See you in the next episode of TightBeam from Mars, in which we will talk about plant cultivation.
These were very little seedlings when we first got them, and as you can see, just after 2 weeks, they're almost fully fledged lettuces.
One more thing. We've launched a Kickstarter campaign, which will help determine the future scope of this game. We've prepared some exciting rewards for the backers, including instant beta access, so make sure to check it out. You'll find the link in the description. Follow us on social media, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. Also, don't forget to add the game to your wish list on Steam. You will find the link in the description.